Ja, jag har ju nu varit verksam i vården i 35 år räknar jag ut med döende patienter och det är mycket angeläget att man kan hjälpa dig på något vis. Inom kirurgien så är ju nutritionen ett av de svåraste problemen att hålla folk i liv till att vi får nya organ. Och kan man dricka den här allt kroppen behöver, vi ska göra nya upptäckter, vi ska undervisa om de upptäckterna och så ska vi aktivt kontakta industrin med de här upptäckterna så att vi snabbt ska komma allmänheten till godo. Det blir 3 uppgifter vi har. Så att jag bara gör vad jag har skyldighet att göra, kan man säga. The shake formulation is, if you take one, as we call 18 gram of it, you get roughly 7 gram protein, 2 gram fat, and 6 gram carbohydrates. And only about 65 calories or 65 to 69 calories, depending on how exact you are when you measure up. And when you take one of these, or you take 2, 3, 4, we have even tested up to 8 at the same time, the blood sugar is not affected. So this gives an optimal hormonal response so that you get a constant blood sugar over time. And that is important for these patients on the waiting list for transplantation, because if you eat too much sugar or fat at the time, this came out as CO2 and they go into coma because they have already too high of that. But this, that you can eat your food without getting these variations in blood sugar, that is very good for ordinary people also, because then they don't get this afternoon tiredness, etc. So with this minimum of calories, you keep your brain very sharp due to this constant blood sugar. Natural balance shake, and that was whole egg first, and that's particular eggs that these hens has been feeded by flaxseed oil and other things, so that you can build in also this healthy fat in the egg. But the egg protein is a complete protein, and from that egg you can get a whole bird, so to say. So it's not only complete in protein, but all other elements, also trace elements and so on. Then we had the best from the milk. The cow milk is made for cows, and they have too much casein in it, and the human mother's milk have more what we call whey protein. And we took the whey protein part out of the cow milk, and that is the part that has the highest biological activity for humans also. That means that you can use everything and not waste it out as nitrogen in the urine. And then we took one from the pea, and the pea is called the meat of the vegetarian kingdom, because it have very good protein profile, very similar to animal sources. And this is one more good thing with pea, has a lot of this amino acid arginine, and that is lower the blood pressure for people. So this is the 3 protein sources that give profile very similar to a human mother's milk regarding the amino acid profile. And that means that we can use everything and not waste it out again in the urine. Then we have rose hip in it to give some important mineral and vitamins. And we also had apples in it. Apples have a low glycemic index, but this is a lot of pectin in the apples. And this pectin stick to small wounds in our stomachs and so on, so they can heal out. And then we also want to have fibers in it. And we took this sugar beet fibers, of course not sugars has been taken out, but the fibers left. But then it's important to point out that you should drink water in enough amounts so that these fibers can work and keep your bowels normal. Since about 10,000 years ago, this agricultural revolution came, as this is the best of our knowledge. And we have adapted ourselves to that over 10,000 years. And so this ordinary food we eat, at least we have 10,000 years of observation. When we introduced this agricultural revolution, then a lot of people died out. And they got a weak skeleton. We can see it in these fossils and so on. So it takes some time to adapt to a new situation. And that's the reason why when we introduce some type we call functional food and so on that has never been eaten before, we cannot know with the surety the consequences of it, even if we have some 1-2 generation observation. That's too short to know the consequences. So to be smart, it's better to stick to what we know we can tolerate. When you have diabetes, you have high blood sugar, and we measure how high blood sugar you have by measuring how many of the red cells that has reacted with the high blood sugar in an irreversible reaction. You could say that the body gets sweetened in a way. The red cells we shift out every 2-3 months, but if you have diabetes or go with too high blood sugar, this reaction happens. This is a reaction between glucose and an amino acid valine that is in the protein, irreversible. And normal people should have around 4% of the red cells sweetened by this reaction, but diabetes most often have 10%. And when you have that much, you get a lot of complication. You get bad kidneys, bad sight, you can get bad brain function, etc. This reaction happens every time the blood sugar goes over 8 millimole, a little of this reaction. That is the reason why we have 4%. And now this discussion about Alzheimer, for instance, and our weakened mental performance with age is not only atherosclerosis that is discussed now, but also you can, when you study these Alzheimer brains, you get some deposits of a substance called amyloid, and that is probably high blood sugar is involved in the production of this substance. So it's important to keep the blood sugar not swinging too much, because when it goes up, a little of this irreversible reaction happens, and with the blood we can shift out all the time, but not the brain and other organs. It's important to do that, to prevent that you lose your, if you want to have a long, healthy life, to prevent this, you say, sweetening of your body. So if you eat a quick carbohydrate and get this Mount Everest top several times a day, you will sweeten your kidneys and your brains, and this will shorten your lifespan, if not your lifetime, at least your time where you can keep your thought power intact. The most striking effect is, as I have seen, very striking effect, that is if you skip your lunch, typical lunch now for students or doctors or nurses, we have our own restaurants, is that you get bread and you get some sugar drinks, and that you can get as much as you want, and you get a lot of potatoes, but you don't get so much protein, because that is the expensive part. And when you take this carbohydrate meal with quick carbohydrates, you get very tired 1-2 hours after the meal. And for instance, in the hospitals, we have between 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock, we have our post-education lessons and so on. And then when you have that between 2 and 3, and the lunchtime is around 12, at least 80% are asleep. So if you go into a room and try to speak to people at between 2 and 3 in the afternoon, you look out, at least you can see 80% of the eyelid closed now and then, because they are so tired. And this, that you are so tired, is a sign that you in a way are healthy, because that means that you have your insulin sensitivity intact. So when you eat all these quick carbohydrates, the blood sugar rise not so much, because the insulin rise instead and keep it within reasonable limits. And then it rises too much, so when the lesson starts at 2 o'clock, insulin is still high to control this sugar, and then you overshoot, so you get low blood sugar, and then it's very difficult then to keep your intellectual performance. All can take it, as that can swallow. That means from 6 months of age you can start with it if you like. But if you are allergic to some components and you react, so there is a lot of allergies now. Could be potential allergies against eggs or peas or milk. There is, I told this whey protein, but there is no lactose in it. This is no casein protein in it. So my daughter, that is, she's also a doctor. She is very intolerant against lactose, but she can take this very well. And she has now 3 children, and she has her children has started to take this at 6 months when they can get it, because then now you buy this baby food in bottles and so on, and that's of course well controlled good things, but they are still a little artificial. So even 6 months babies like real food better, prefer real food better than this this box food. So if you have a mother that really make natural food and give these babies, they prefer it many times over artificial, and they also prefer natural balance shake over the other things, just because it is dried food made fluid, you could say, so you could feed them. So everybody can take it because it is food. No, if you have, there's many types of diseases, but if you have very serious disease, very serious, almost a lethal disease, or you are on cytostatic drugs trying to fight cancer and so on, then your nutrition is extra important, because if you don't get complete nutrition, then you cannot stand the therapy, you cannot survive. So the sicker you are, the more important it is to get complete nutrition. And then, since you are often very weak when you are so sick, or you have lost appetite, then it is important that what you get is what you need, and no unnecessary, could say, calories. And then this is very good, because it's only what you need and no unnecessary thing. And even if you have, let us say, kidney disease or liver disease, you still need complete nutrition. People think that you should not take protein when you have a kidney disease, for instance, but that's absolutely wrong. All people need complete nutrition if they shall survive. If you are so sick in the kidneys, for instance, regarding protein, then you must have dialysis and kidney transplantation ultimately. But all people must have complete nutrition, otherwise they can simply not survive. That is very important to underline. And then you should have only what your body needs, so you don't burden sick kidney or sick liver to take care of extra nitrogen, other thing. And then you should only have it in the best optimal proportion. So in that respect, if you are not allergic against any component in natural balance shake, that is excellent food when you are sick. And of course, excellent food when you are healthy, because we all need complete nutrition. It's unique because it is just natural. These strengthening drinks we use in medicine are meant for a few days, but if you take them over several weeks, you get atrophy in your bowel and you cannot tolerate them. This is ordinary food, scientifically put together so that you can take it every day for the rest of your life if there is an indication for that. Yes, it's free from gluten. In our studies, we ran for these 22 persons. It lowers it a little and it increased the, so to say, good cholesterol, lower the bad cholesterol. So, but the whole questions about eggs and cholesterol have been re-evaluated after these big studies of Professor Willett in Harvard studying 80,000 nurses over 20 years. That egg, he advocates now 1 egg each day for people because it's so many good things in eggs, and eggs turn the good cholesterol better. So only to measure the total cholesterol is not, from a medical point of view, relevant any longer. If you take 1 natural balance shake, you get about 50 milligram cholesterol. In a normal 1 egg, you get 250 milligrams. So you get, you could say, 1/5 of an egg if you take 1 natural balance shake a day, and that's much less than Professor Willett advocates from Harvard. You should take 1 a day, and he says that to be on the safety side, he writes in his book that if you have diabetes, you should take 2 eggs a week, he tells. Otherwise, you could take 1 each day. So it has been much confusion regarding cholesterol, but not any longer. We make cholesterol in our liver. The more we eat, the less we make, and vice versa. But in our study, people went down in cholesterol, total cholesterol, but it was not significant lowering, but they did not increase the total cholesterol. They, so to say, diminish it a little. To start with water, if you have carbonated water and do it in a shaker, that you should not do, for obvious reason, because then you could get like a champagne of it. But if you take it for the reason that you should keep your blood sugar constant or lose weight or really get the full effect of it, you should not mix it with fluids that have sugar in it or even carbohydrate in it, like fruit juice. But if you simply want it for energy, you can do that, or you can mix it in milk, for instance, or so one very good drink you could mix it in is this pure soya milk, because there you have almost no sugar, and then you keep all the effect of the natural balance shake, and you can get some extra soya. Yeah, it is an excellent meal replacement, and the reason for that is that in spite of having little calories, it does not affect the insulin. And then when you have taken these and got your proteins, you will switch over your metabolism to start to burn your fat. And that's the reason why you feel so strong for the rest of the day, almost because you burn your fat, and most people have enough fat to be burnt for the next hours. And this is some kind of strange, because we are being taught that we must eat so much calories, but that is not true. Most have the calories, too much of them even, with us. No, that's you could say simply no. That's the same questions as if you could overdose food. if you could overdose meat or a type of that, yes, of course, if you are in a competition that you should eat until you get sick or something, but the appetites will regulate, so you cannot do that. Personally, for instance, since I'm a surgeon and needs to be in the wounds, and I cannot take lunch at a particular time and so on. So I take it often. I can drink it through the cloth I have for the mouth during the operations when I feel hungry. They put it in this sacking. They put it here. I take it during work and so on. Many surgeons do that. Many anesthetic doctors do that also. So then you simply can skip the meal altogether. But this is not something I advocate for ordinary people, but because I think that the social contact with other people during meals, you should not skip that. But if you are a business person or other person that simply have no time for a lunch, then you can take it when you feel hungry instead of lunch. And I think that we should have something for your teeth to work on. So you could take an apple or something, really, some vegetables, so you can use your teeth also. And that's good. So then that means that you could, when you leave your home, you could take a natural balance shake and an apple or some other things, and you simply don't need more food before the dinner. We have got 2 observations now, because many have taken it now for many years, and most people think, they think they dream more. Actually, that we haven't got reported. They start to dream more, and some people that normally, if they take it in the evening, those people who wake up after 1-2 hours of sleep with heartburn and so on, they don't do that, because this is a neutral. It, so to say, neutralize the stomach content, so they can sleep well throughout the night. So there's very many that feel that this has been very good for them to take half an hour before sleep and so on. And many think they dream more, but there is not mere dreams. They simply dream more. So this is a report we have got. If you are tired after work, I would recommend to take a natural balance shake and then do it. And if you are away from work, try to jump off on the way home, if you have some kind of subway or whatever, and try to walk the last part. Or if you have close to work, use your bicycle to the work and so on. So you are forced more or less to take you back home with some physical thing, because and then you have created a new habit, and it takes 3-4 weeks to create a new habit. So this willpower thing we speak about now, this is a matter for only 3-4 weeks. Then it will be a new habit, and then it will be much more easy. Yeah, it's the goat. You get goat if you get too much uric acid into your blood, and this uric acid is mainly a genetic disease. But if you then eat too much food with the nucleus in it, like liver and so on, that could make it worse. But most people with gout, that is not a folk disease, so to say. But if you have that, you need some a substance called allopurinol to help to get rid of the uric acid in the urine, and you need to watch up with certain food things, so to say. But there is nothing in the omega in natural balance shake that have high content of uric acid, or these purines that turn up to be uric acid. Yeah, absolutely. I have my daughter, that is a doctor, has taken it all the time. She has 3 children, and now the wife of my son's daughter, she has 2 children, has taken it all the time. Another lady that had diabetes during the pregnancy has taken it to stabilize the blood sugar, etc. So that can be done, and it's ensure a very good nutrition for the mother, so to say. Most teenagers don't like fish, for instance. It's very difficult to get them to eat fish. So if they take the wellness pack, they get this omega-3 they very much need. And they also get the vitamins they need. That's important. But still more important when you complain that they don't want to eat your food would be to let them take the natural balance shake. Because that is much more food, so to say. The other are vitamins. Fish oils important, but it still is the food that is the most important for them.